Tony, you gotta turn that on.
It's on.
Is it on? Okay.
It's on.
That'll turn should go on its shot. So I think if we turn on she's toys.
Just one, that side one.
Those are together.
Oh,
They're not so- Okay.
no. We can try it.
That one always shows us.
We'll try it without it. If it is too
Okay,
bad.
it's 7 o'clock, so we'll call this meeting to order and we'll start out with pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have roll call, trustee Hadshaw.
Present.
Trustee Manzel.
Here?
Trustee Long.
Present.
The attorney is gonna be just a little bit late, he figured probably around 7:30 or so. Trustee Lewandowski, is that close? Lewandowski, okay, well, we'll get it next time then. Trustee Khan?
Here.
And of course, we have our visitors, Engineer Roush and planner Sensky. Yeah, I'm consistent. And then, of course, our clerk Kelly and myself. So we will go into public comments and thank you everybody for coming and giving your 2 cents of opinion. We're glad, be glad to listen to you. You may not receive any answers from the board. This is you folks' time to talk, and we can take that under consideration and when we go into our meeting. But please, as you do that, if you have a certain thing that you're concerned about, please take and, offer a solution along with it. So we have maybe something positive to work together along with whatever else we may have. So, but you need to sign in, your name and your address, things like that. Okay? And then, try to keep it to approximately 2 minutes. So, whoever would like to go first,
I'll go first.
okay?
Craig Peterson, South 91, West 22887, Orchard Street, Big Bend. I just wanted to thank you guys for allowing me to come and explain what happened on December 15th at the Planning Commission meeting. We went there, I knew there was going to be a closed session. The vote was up, I voted for the closed session. After that, I believe I was blindsided. I was asked to leave the room, and I said I would not leave the room. And I got a lot of feedback from the rest of the board about it, but I still kept my ground and said I wasn't going to leave the room. And there's a lot of reasons that I wouldn't do that. Number one, I feel like it was illegal for me to leave the room, or to have me leave the room. I had my attorney watch the video of the thing, and he thought this was ridiculously weak at best. I mean, there's even a statute in Wisconsin under duties of public officials, 19.89 exclusion of members. And it reads, no duly elected or appointed member of a government body may be excluded from any meeting of such body unless the rules of the government body provide to the contrary. No member of the body may be excluded from any meeting of a submit or a subunit of that governmental body. So reading that, I felt I had no other recourse to stay in the room so we could get this thing tabled. Now, after doing so, I was told, and I don't, if you want to call it threatened, of being removed from office and also being fined for misconduct in office. Now, if this board believes that my actions was actually a misconduct of office, they don't have to look very far to find more of it around here. I mean, there's people that have their own agendas, that are doing stuff. There was no conflict of interest as far as I was concerned. Number one, Extreme Exteriors is owned 95% by Jim and Peterson and 5% by my wife. I have no actual stake in the company except my wife being a 5% owner. So if they think that's gonna be a conflict of interest because it's a financial gain for myself, you're truly mistaken. I don't think that it was right for you guys to act the way you did, as well as me. But I had no other recourse of what to do. And I hope that you guys will look past this and see how silly that is. You want to talk about misconduct in office. Mr. Schober going to a bar afterwards and talking to people about me. Now, if that's not misconduct, that's way worse, I think, than what I did. So I think that the board should take a hard look at this, and if you can find one statute, and we've read through this, and I had my attorney look at this, he highlighted stuff for me. There's nothing in there about misconduct as far as refusing to leave the room, unless you want to read it some other different way. So I hope you guys keep that in consideration on your closed session again. And for starters, the last closed session, that was illegal the way it was handled in the first place. So I think maybe some people better understand how to run the board meeting better, so we don't run into this problem. But there's a lot of illegal stuff going on the way it's happening. So that's about all I have to say for the moment.
Okay, thank you. We may ask you to take and share that information with the attorney so we can be advised on that at some point. Okay?
I'd love to.
Thank you. Okay, next.
Jamin Peterson, Extreme Exteriors. I don't live in the village, but I've got a lot of stake in the village.
Did you sign it?
I did, yes.
Oh, thank you.
Yep. I've got two topics to discuss tonight. The first one's gonna be the burn ordinance. I think it's ridiculous to make everybody that has a commercial industrial site in this village suffer because one guy doesn't wanna see a fire next to his property. If you're talking about solutions, don't change the village ordinance that affects all these companies. Pull my burn permit, so Mike Monzel doesn't have to watch me have a fire next to his property. I just think this is ridiculous. We've got one or two properties that are residential houses that are zoned commercial. So what about the people that live in that house? They can't have a fire? I think that's ridiculous. Big Bend is so intertwined with commercial and residential next to each other. How do you make the decision behind the Lake Park storage condos? I have a house that is 25 feet off of the building. It's a commercial site, but yet that guy in the house behind can have a fire. What's the difference? It's being nitpicky, and I think it's just a ridiculous ordinance. And the village is spending time, effort, and money trying to go through this, and for what reason? What benefit? If you guys can name one benefit what this ordinance does, I'd be happy to hear it. And then the second thing is, I know you guys are going into closed session again about the dump property. And I would highly recommend you take a second thought before you do that tonight. That was a planning commission topic that was made a motion to table last month. How can you guys make a motion to table a topic and then without any discussion from anybody on the planning commission, bump it up to a board level? There has to be a motion to vote to send this to board, and that didn't happen. The last motion that was made by the planning commission was to table this to next month's planning commission meeting. So before you guys go into closed session today and discuss this, I would highly recommend you talk to the attorney because from what I can see, it's highly illegal what you did. So,
Okay, thank you. Next.
I'll go. Hi, I'm William Gullifer.
Thank you. You signed in?
I will do that.
Okay.
I'm
Could you do that?
yeah,
for him, please?
sorry.
Thank
Could you
you.
spell your last name, please?
Gullifr.
Thank you. And your address?
The burn ban. I own a commercial property right here on Industrial Drive,
Okay.
and I don't think it would be fair to the people who own the commercial buildings not to be able to burn, if need be, which we really don't too much per se. We take our cardboard to the dumpster, which was easier before when there was the big dumpster, because the little dumpster is filling up too fast. There's always piles around it, so then I don't leave it. But to let residential burn but not commercial, I don't think that is appropriate or necessary to do it that way. I've been out here since 2014. I love Big Bend, I really do, and I don't plan on leaving. I have not seen any problems. Person might burn garbage here, there are some boxes or such, but I've never seen huge clouds of smoke or anything like that going on, or any popping noises from, wood burning or something like that. So I don't think it would be a good decision to ban the people with the commercial properties. And that's all I have for
All
you.
right, thank you.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Josh Rover, W230S9105 Clark Street.
And I think I seen you sign in.
Yeah. Basically, the burn ordinance, it affects more than just the industrial and commercial. It'll affect the residents. You start chasing out businesses by putting ordinance out like this for one personal issue. I don't think it's fair. I don't have a company in this village, but it will lose revenue. It's wrong for one personal issue. That's basically all I gotta say.
Thank you.
The abuse of power for that one issue.
Anybody else? Any other public comments? The third time, any other public comments? Okay, thank you, everybody. We will move on to fire department reports.
Evening.
Evening.
So we had a slower December than November. It gave time for our staff to work on their online training and spend some time with their families for the holidays. We had 10 calls for the month. Staff is continuing to work on the grant award. We've ordered our cardiac monitors and the cot lift for $11.51. In January, we should be switching over to FirstNet for our phone service. Been working on that. Recruiting is continuing. We're looking at applications we have received. Once the backgrounds are completed, we will take it to the Police and Fire Commission. So, any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I do, John. I need to apologize that your new schedule for the EMS.
Yeah, I had it on here.
Did not get on.
Didn't get it on the agenda.
We'll get it on February. So, and then we have a few other items here to talk about. In finance, we seen the bill for $665.03. And it's for basically coffee mugs, 35 coffee mugs for the fire department personnel.
Yeah, that was for a gift to the members for.
Is that something are you planning on paying for that with donations or what?
I thought I had put that on there for, out of our donation account, was that on there?
No.
Cause I thought I had it out of donation account, but.
Okay, thank you, because it was determined by finance that we thought that was a questionable way of spending tax money.
Yeah, no, it was supposed to come out of the donation account is,
Okay,
yeah.
so when we get to approval of bills, we did minus that off, and so that will come out of your,
Yeah, that's fine.
okay.
That's
good,
fine.
good. I've got a couple other things here. The grant money, we need to have copies of the grant, as far as what it can be used for. And then we have to have the records for the funding and also where the $12,000 ARPA funding check is.
That should have went to you guys at the same time we got the other, it should be,
We got the one, we have not gotten that 12 plus one.
the first one came at the same time the original, FAP funds came, that's when that one came. Came with the original FAP funds. And it shows it on the P and L
When was that?
back in August.
Oh, then Laura must miss that, then I will.
Okay,
check
we'll go
that
back
out.
and check, and that's.
Right, that was the first half that came in back in August. We're gonna get the second half in February.
Okay, because we got the one in December.
We got,
Was it November, December, the big one?
we got
Part
the
of
big
the
one.
big
That was-
Part of the big
Part
one.
of it, right.
And then also for the request from the treasurers and clerks is, we need to know where the reimbursement for ALS and intercept calls, where's that going? How is the village reimbursed? Pretty much reference Village of Muskego invoices.
McQuanico.
From Maguanago, I'm sorry.
Mahuanaco?
That's basically part of our budget for the EMS side, and that gets submitted to our billing company and billed to the end user.
Okay, that is, and you're saying that's not coming in?
So,
That always goes up to Three Rivers.
right,
And then they bill that out from there.
right. And then how do we get paid back?
That then gets when we get paid back, it gets deposited into our accounts.
Okay, so then we need to just deduct that from their side then.
Do we have copies of when that comes?
Well, I'll have to go back and check it.
Yeah, we need to have that information so we could, get that put in properly. Yeah. Okay, and then this is from R&R Insurance. We need to have personnel files on every active member, firefighter, EMS, along with their credentials. This is for liability insurance purposes, copy of certificates, license cards, requirements of insurance underwriters. Village carries the policy, not the fire department, and so the records must be kept with the village.
Okay, I thought we gave them last year already.
Yeah. So who's the contact over at R&R?
I know more
I
than
don't know
care.
what, but just, get the information and get it to the clerks and we'll send it to them.
Can you get me the phone number for R&R? Give them a call so we can get exactly what they're looking for?
Okay, I'll give that to Laura.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, well, we need that in the village, the roster and the information on their certifications and stuff, so we don't run into a liability factor. Okay, and then also need full time cards regarding service calls, training during the quarter for which each employee is paid,
Are you talking individual time cards?
individual.
We used to get them, and all of a sudden we don't get them anymore.
That was when we switched over to our Vector Solutions trainings.
And that's fine, you have the copies, you
So-
said back there, so,
Yeah, it's just a matter of pulling them off the computer.
yeah,
So-
just print them out and, it shouldn't be any real big deal, so.
Are you looking for the big rosters that we used to do before? Is that what you want?
I'm assuming that's what they want.
Okay.
Well, how do they turn them into you? What do you work off of to get that?
Basically, our rosters that after each call, we basically sign in for each call.
Okay, so it goes in your computer system.
Correct, and
so
then we just
it
log.
should be extremely simple to just print that out and put it with your with the one that you, with the sheet that you turn into the treasurer for payment.
Yeah. It'll just be a little more work for, we're trying to figure it out yet, still. It's
Well,
still
but
into us, so.
you take, and from what I understand, Jamie just says, you put it into the computer,
Right.
so you should be able to just print it out. I mean, it's
Yeah.
a 5-minute ordeal, I would think.
We'll get that.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much.
Chief, I got just a quick question for you too. You say that you were looking at applications that you've received. Can you give me, just, I mean, are you getting quite a few or just a couple?
We just got a couple right now. We're expecting a couple more out there yet, but we haven't got them back yet, so.
How's your roster looking these days? You guys still keeping a good roster or where are you guys at on that?
We're probably at, right now, we're probably roughly at 25 active members,
Okay.
so.
That's between fire and EMS. Any good split down between the two?
I don't have to split down, but.
I'm just curious. I was reading an article today and it's talking again about the challenges facing volunteer fire departments and recruitment,
Oh, yeah.
and just wanted to kind of get a synopsis of where you guys were at.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the county and what's going on right now, Lake Country is heading into, I don't wanna say a shortfall in regards to personnel, but they're having, in fact, tonight, pretty big meeting about talking about going to referendum in regards to full-time and stuff.
Delafield, right?
Yeah,
Is
Delafield.
looking in particular.
City of Delafield, Town of Delafield, Shaniqua, Neshota, Wales, Genesee. So,
I think Delafield's the one that's considering the referendum right now for the country, so.
that would be, that actually would be the entire Lake
Whole
Country
area.
district is what they're looking for, referendum for all the communities involved.
Right, but I think Delafield's the only one to step up and say that they're gonna put it to the vote right now. So, I may be wrong, I don't know.
So,
All right, thanks, Chief.
Okay, and then we'll move on to the library report.
Hello, everybody. I'm grateful that December is done. It was a lot of fun Christmas parties, but it's nice to have a new year. The village Christmas party was really nice. It was at the Lions Club, and I appreciate the help with Kelly, Laura, Nancy, and also Mark Anderson, who was a guest, but he chose not to be a guest. He chose to actually do the catering. I don't know if you noticed that. He took care of all the food. That was great. We had a Santa program a week later, and we had 99 heads that we could count because they were all running around. It was a fun night, but they were loud, and they love Santa. So we hope to continue that. That is our longest lasting, most well-attended fun program of the year. I also wanted to mention that on your sheet, the totals for fines, charges, and donations are accurate. Item circulation, that's a total of how many physical items pass through our hands. And patron visits were 15,370. We circulated 14,000 items. And I don't ever get my statistics for electronic materials in time to put it on this report. This last year was 4,319 electronic checkouts. That is up 15% from last year. Our physical item checkout is down 8.9%. And I've got the last 5 years. It's a pretty steady trend, I guess. And I think that we're gonna see our physical checkouts now are stabilized since COVID happened. Our electronic usage is going up every year. So I think the bigger library system that we are part of puts in all the money towards that. We personally, as a small library, don't have to, and that's our benefit of belonging to the group, because our members can benefit from all of what the bigger system purchases. Also, I wanted to explain the fines are usually overdue fines or damaged materials. A lot of people had books that they damaged because it was $800 for the year. Charges are for the copy machine, fax, and that's given to the village at the end of the year. This year's donations were pretty extensive, not expected. We had 1,600, 1,200 of that came for one person. 1,000 of it went towards our sign, and 200 of it went specifically at her request to pay for the treats and foods that we get for our movies and some of our programs. And 400 of it came from the bake sale. So approximately, and I don't have my end of the year figures exact, about $1,500 will probably go into LGIP. And the rest of the money we use to purchase a children's computer, which isn't quite set up yet, but that's our magnet for kids. They walk in the door and it's placed right in their visual field and they just run to it. It's really fun to watch a 18-month-old use a mouse. I also spent $1,000 to have our 5 PCs tuned up and cleaned up, and was told that they'll probably last another 2 or 3 years. We're on a regular maintenance replacement schedule with Cotney's, and what they told me so far has happened. And I get rebuilt computers from them, and they take good care of us. Also, our new lighting that the DPW put up a month or so ago was great. It's nice and bright in there. Any questions?
You know, Carly, you've done a great job this year with the library, and we appreciate it. And I just want to say thank you again for the sign, and to our people that donated for that. So, you know, the village did not have to take and pay a dime for that. It was all donations. And hopefully everybody in here or listening out there have been able to see the sign and see how wonderful it is. And we want to put more communication out there so that everybody knows what's going on, because I think we've been kind of behind times as far as getting the word out there, good or bad, or whatever else it might be. And you and everybody did a great job with the Christmas party. And please tell your husband also thank you, because I know he really helped.
Well, also with the sign, at the end, we were 5,000 short. And so we could have, well, we were gonna take it out of our library savings. Celebrations Committee donated that 5,000, which balanced it at 0, which is great. And I wish you all would know, the people that did donate, it's pretty amazing what they've done. I haven't talked to fire, police yet. I'm going to get an email out. I'm willing to post what you need to have posted. They suggested 5 to 7 moving signs a day, so I can do that. I'm learning how to do it. Kelly, when tax season is over, is going to help me, and I'll get an email to everybody. Also, I thought was really interesting, not every sign in this area is allowed to change their message. It depends on who approves it, and thanks to the planning commission, you approved it. Thank you.
And the library board did take it. We wish we could take and tell you and say more thanks out loud who our $25,000 donor was, but they want to be anonymous. But we did take it at the library board, purchase a gift for her.
We did.
Do you want to explain that at all?
We bought I think it was $80 garden statue, because this person is into gardening. And it's got a little boy and girl reading a book on it, and this person was involved with that for many years, so that was our way of thanking her.
Okay, thank you, Carla. Okay, next we have the police report.
Good evening, you have a request in front of you. Items are going on page 2 and 3 there, so take a look at those, I don't have to read them all to you. 1 assault, 2 OWIs, 1 bail jumping, 3 adult arrests, 55 traffic stops, 65 traffic citations, 353 total calls for service with 182 building checks, house checks, extra patrols, 5 accidents. We responded with the fire department, 5 of their calls. Salvage vehicle for the total year for 2022 is 141. The revenue for that is the next line down. That includes the revenue for the inspection from the state and the admin fees. And we spent 7 hours and 45 minutes in assisting other agencies, mainly in Vernon and the town of Waukesha. Our new squad came in early. We got that picked up, or that delivered 2 weeks ago. We're just waiting for some of the lights and stuff to get it outfitted now, and then we'll have that back on the road. As soon as that's on the road, we'll sell the other squad to repack some of the money for it. Questions, comments, concerns?
So, salvage vehicles, 141, how does that compare to pre-COVID days before you got shut down?
Still low,
Okay.
but we figured it's gonna take time to build it back up.
Mhm.
And the second thing that causing some of the problem is even salvage vehicles that are being sold, the price of used cars and stuff is so high that we're losing, all departments are losing some of it, or whatever, my understanding is. I think it'll grow. We have the one dealership that's been doing a significant number of those, and he's building another section on his, business, and he's planning on increasing it. And that's the one place that we actually go to them, which we talked about when we started this back up, where they have 5 or more cars, we'll go to them. Well, the least we've had, I think we've been there 4 times, is 9, the highest has been 12 cars at a time. So it's well worth the effort to do a little traveling, we make it as quick as we can, so it doesn't affect us very much.
Sounds good, thank you.
You're welcome.
I had a question, Chief, regarding traffic stops. Approximately, where were you at for the year according to the previous year? And I'm not asking this as a revenue type question, I'm asking it as, I drive 164 pretty regular, and I know a lot of people doing it mention something. Traffic doesn't seem to be slowing down there too much.
Well, let's talk about this first. We talked about the public safety, and for you that follow our Facebook page, we had one guy at 101 miles an hour on 164 this month, or not this month, last month. So 164 is a highway, and it's still a highway. A significant amount of our tickets are on 164. Actually, our 2 highest ticket areas are 164 and Edgewood. Both of them people just tend to drive way too fast.
That, you know, and me,
Exact numbers for the years of your comparison, I'd have to get it for you for next month.
me, you know, personally, I come down that hill on 164. As you know, I have to make a turn at the bottom of the hill. It is extremely dangerous, the way they're coming up on you and passing you on the right hand and left hand side. You know, I don't know if there's much you can do there, but do what you can, okay?
And we'll do.
Thank you, sir. And we move on to President's report, and I don't have anything else to report. Public Works?
Good evening. I sent everybody here an email copy of the Pazer Whistler report. Everybody got that? Everybody understood what it means and stuff like that, so. Averaging up everything, our roads come up to about 4.5, 5, which is half of the 10, obviously. But there's some work that we have to get done, and it's not the police department, fire department, or DPW that's costs a lot of money, it's infrastructure, it's our roads. So I think this next year we gotta do some heavy duty planning on what can and cannot be achieved. If you guys have any questions on that, give me an email, give me a call. We poured a 10-inch thick slab out in the back here for the generator. We are waiting for We Energies to hook up to our building. We Energies is fighting right now with the transfer switch company. The transfer switch was ordered with a 400 amp switch, came with a 600 amp switch. And We Energies will not hook up to that, and I understand why, so we're going to see what's going to happen there. But I wanted to thank Larry Obremski, he's been in concrete work forever. Came in and gave us a hand with that. We tied that piece in the building here too. Rural Home Cemetery, we got 39 burials this year. This is the most we've ever had. And we got one this Saturday too. So it's been pretty busy up there. You guys have a lot on your list here, so I'm just going to rip through some of this stuff. We took the new truck back to the dealer for warranty work. Unit would turn over one spin and that was it. We finally got it back. We put the wing plow and stuff on the other truck while it was gone, so we've been using both. There's some stuff in the new one yet that needs to be adjusted. We'll be going back. I'm not going to put the other one on the auction site till ours is, so we're confident that everything's locked in. We've been out 8 times since November, and then Mother Nature gave us the 22nd, 23rd, 24th, 25th, and the 31st for snow and drifting. I'm going to talk to Tony and Mike about your subdivision. I'm going to send you guys an email and see if we can get everybody in there to be on the same page with all parking cars. We've got cars parked all over. Mike, I've got a question for you. We don't have somebody on at night when we have overnight parking restrictions. If I take a picture, it's dated and timed on there. You think our police department can issue a citation on that?
I think they can. It's evidence as to what took place. It's a graphic representation of what took place, and if the picture taker is available for a trial, it's sufficient to prove what happened at a particular time. So I don't think it's a hard way to do it, but can we do it? Yes.
Are we having a lot of issues with that yet?
It's not the police department fault, there's people parking everywhere.
No, that's fine.
And
Not with the police department, with the parking.
yes, we've got people coming over, spending weekends, parked on the side of the road, you can't get the equipment through. And it's not just in their subdivision, it's like just about every place. Over on Brock Drive, there's some stuff this morning. It's just people don't understand that you can't park in the streets. So,
Is there any of this that we can take and put a note on the vehicle, some kind of warning or something like that, or, do you have any opinion on that?
Some of the ones that were our regulars, we've already talked to, and we've got those taken care of for the ones that were actually visiting village residents or had regular visiting village and doing it. We went to some of them already and talked to them. And it's hit and miss when it's happening. We do have flyers that we put out in the past on cars. Now obviously it's in the middle of the season, so we gotta do what we can do to help everyone.
I mean, I had 3 cars parked up on John Drive, right by the fire hydrant there, parked overnight. So a fire had to use that hydrant, it wasn't gonna happen. So,
Yeah, let's
Sure
try
it is.
to educate them.
It's called a tow truck. Works real quick, or push it with a fire truck. Not a problem. We'll get in there.
Maybe, can we put a hook on that? What is
Oh,
that?
you bet. We'll move it. There's no doubt about it. That'll put a hose right through the car.
Well, maybe, yeah, that's not a bad idea. That's, let's try to educate them, and if we have people that, I mean, we can give tickets the first time. That's your,
yeah, I'm not looking to give tickets, but it's to the point where how many times can you know,
we can educate them, and then if we have people repetitively doing it, then they need to have some kind of reminder.
So, also did the webinar that Tony had everybody go to, the NIM seminar, the webinar. I did that. I think Tracy did the same thing. I saw her name on there. So we did that. Also did an update on the village website for that webinar on how to operate that. And I'll be honest with you, it was pretty intense. And I don't think everybody got it because everybody was doing other work while they were listening to it, but we got somewhat of a grasp on it. So,
Okay, we appreciate that.
so one other thing too is, state of Wisconsin changed when we did our PASER report, you were not able to in the past to list any roads that were not accepted by the village. It just didn't happen. So this year, they basically changed the wording on that. And it says anything that's open to the public by January 1st of 2023. So I included Oak Ridge and River Birch Court, which is the new Ripplebrook East. So that's included too, so we should see some more revenue money for those roads.
Good.
So,
Okay.
other questions?
Yeah, bottom line, Eric, on that transfer switch, we should not, as a village, be responsible for the cost of making that right, correct?
I'm gonna be talking to him
Okay.
later this week or next week on that,
Yep.
because it's a battle right
Because I've
now.
been seeing the back and forth a little bit on the
Okay,
emails that
yeah,
you shared with us, and, yeah, I don't want the village to be stuck with it, it sounds like
No.
it was not our fault.
No, I ordered it with a 400 amp.
Yep,
The documents say 400 amp,
correct,
and they sent us one with a 600 amp.
right.
So just so everybody understands, it's not like you put a new switch in there. The new switch is 10 grand. It's a $10,000 system that they have to take out, and we're not gonna sit and eat that. That's where I'm coming from.
Right.
So,
Awesome, thank you for keeping on top of
I
that.
did ask
And-
Kelly.
And the updates too.
Regarding, the cost of that, and I think I seen a bill for the concrete, and that should come out of that government money we
it
receive.
should come from ARPA. They're a little behind on trying to get that part of the thing figured out with my with my budget for last year. So once they get this stuff squared away, we'll be good, but, we're ready to go whenever to get the power in here.
And I would like to say to all the departments that, and I've talked to Kelly more about this also, I don't know if they've talked to you, but if you have items in your budget that need to be rollovers, please let the gals know so they can get it done properly. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Professional services?
Yeah, two things that we've been working on, in addition to other things. One is the occasion situation. Occasion did get an attorney, Marcel Waukesha, a good attorney, who was drafting a paper up, and today he said he'd send it over tomorrow. So we should be able to keep moving forward to resolve that. The goal being to record some sort of a document that clears the records of CUP. It was also recorded documents. We just got to straighten out the title in the Register of Deeds office to reflect that the CUP has been completed. And then the other was, Harvest View. Called the attorney last week for town. I think she was always going to call me back. I sent her an email yesterday, so we'll keep working on that. There's no rush on it, but there again, there's a recorded developers agreement, there's a plat. The plat may have to go backwards to be vacated. So I'm trying to work with her to find out what her thoughts are. We both have the common goal of clearing the title of that so that there's no longer any plat of record, there's no longer a developer's agreement of record. So that's it for now.
That, there were, and I hope it's okay to bring this up now since we're on. We had some comments in our public comment section, and they were comments about what is legal, what's not legal, regarding some of what was with the planning commission. And I don't know how to answer some of these questions, so if it's okay with you, I want to have Greg Peterson come. Did he leave?
He's right here.
Oh, okay, then, Jamin, you had a comment about some of that too, so I'd like to have you come up and you don't need to repeat the whole thing, but what you felt was not legal. Could you?
So in the planning commission last month, regarding our dump property and possible fines and non-compliance, Greg refused to leave the room. They decided to table. They made a motion to table this until the next planning commission meeting. How is that on the agenda for the board? There was no vote to make a motion to send it up to the board.
Well, it's up to the board to determine that. That's all I can say. The activities that took place were recorded and they're available to everyone. Some may have independently looked at them. But that's going to be talked about in closed session tonight. I think that's on the agenda. Yes.
So you're gonna talk about something from closed session that, again, if the planning commission made a motion to table it till the next planning commission meeting, isn't usually the planning commission's recommendation to bump something to the board for the board to discuss?
But not in this situation. It doesn't deal with a recommendation for zoning or something similar to that. It deals with the internal operations of the planning commission itself.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about they tabled the discussion about action on fines and non-compliance of the property.
Right.
They tabled that.
And they couldn't take action.
Yes.
Correct. And that's the problem. As an official governmental body, whose member takes an action which makes it impossible for them to perform their governmental duties. And that's potentially a problem. That's something that's within the discretion of this body to talk about in closed session, to determine what, if anything, they want to do about that. Understood?
So you guys can just make stuff up as you go then,
Well,
basically.
I don't know that the truth is going to be somehow avoided, as you apparently think.
Well, I would think the right way to do it is if it's tabled to the next planning commission meeting, it would be discussed at the next planning commission, and if a resolution can be figured out, then the planning commission would vote to send it up to the board to discuss, because it couldn't be taken care of at a planning commission level.
Well, that's what
But
you
you're
think.
skipping all of that
That's
levels.
what you think.
These are the elected officials.
Okay.
What you say certainly can influence them, but they make the decision. You don't make the decision.
I understand that. Okay.
So the board has the right to take up pretty much any subject.
No, they have the right to take up the subjects that are listed on the agenda.
Right, but we
It's
can put it on
reasonable.
the agenda, right?
Well, when I see the agenda.
Yeah.
I saw it earlier today.
The next page, Mike.
And who's the one that decides to put it on the agenda? Must be one person, because you never had a meeting since then.
Well, anything that needs to come to the board, I approve the agenda before it actually gets out.
So that would be you just putting it on there because you wanted to, or did you confer with the rest of the board members for that?
I want
planning
to
commission.
get this dealt with, and of course, and I believe any person on the board could ask for it not to be there, is that correct?
Well, I think that the ultimate determiner of the content of the agenda is going to be the board president. It is on the agenda. It is legally on the agenda, and it's a topic for discussion.
But my question is, if it was tabled, how can it get moved to the village board right away?
No, the fact that it was tabled is what is the problem.
Right, so the planning commission should still be able to.
This is a closed session topic.
Correct.
It's a mistake now in my view to be talking about it.
Oh, okay.
Correct. But to answer your question, it's the inability of that governmental body to move forward that was the result of an action taken by a planning commission member. If that were to happen continuously, that body could never take up any action. Can you understand that?
Yes, because we had the same problem. We were tabling stuff during public safety, and we kept tabling it until it was approved, and
Well,
then
what
we
was the
moved it up to
cause?
the board.
Was it because the person would not have sent themselves through a closed session when their business that they said they owned is the topic of the closed meeting?
Well, technically, under Wisconsin statutes, he had the right to be in the meeting.
You do, with exceptions. And one of the exceptions is when there's a breach of the ethical conduct or a violation of the law, i.e. misconduct in public office.
Well, that was why I did what I did,
Well,
is because you wouldn't let me in the meeting, even though there was a statute
It's not the
saying.
appropriate time for the discussion. It's supposed to be a closed session topic. So,
Well, he's the one that asked us to talk.
was that an apology? Is that an
For what,
apology?
Seth?
For you, from you,
To who?
to the board and to the planning commission?
For starters, the planning commission isn't here, the board.
Okay, all right, I just wanted to know what his apology, I'll take that as a no.
You take that wherever you like them. You could just think what you want, but Jeff asked us right now to explain what we talked about earlier. And you say now, oh, don't do it, so.
I think we need to move on. you know.
I agree.
Yeah, go ahead, Mary.
I was just gonna add, Mike, on the point of, this topic had been put in front of the planning commission at staff's volition in order to secure some feedback from the planning commission if they desired to guide the means of enforcement on an apparent zoning violation. There is nothing in our zoning code that specifically provides that the planning commission is the resource for that. It's a staff decision, staff or the servicing contractors involved in the issue. It's that level of decision that went into putting that on the planning commission agenda to say, hey, would you guys be able or interested or able to give us some feedback on how you would like us to proceed with enforcement here? There is nothing in the code that says that is the route to the solution for guidance and feedback to the staff and contractors. The village board is equally as entitled to guide the staff and contractors in how to proceed with enforcement. So I think it's clearly as suitable to have this on the village board's agenda as it is to have it on the planning commission's agenda. And I don't think one mutually excludes the other. So I think you know, the planning commission can take it back up off the table when they meet, and they can be enlightened by whatever this board might do, if anything. But I don't see that there's any reason that it can't be in both places.
I'll agree with you, I'll say I agree with you, but the enforcement issue and what was to be done with that is different than the issue that's going to closed session tonight. The latter deals with the conduct of an appointed official, and there falls back on the state statutes as to the recourse, the two recourses that are available, so.
Well, there's
I'll be
two
talking about
closed
both.
sessions, I think, tonight.
Yeah.
One is with respect to the enforcement, and then one is with respect to the conduct of the official.
Okay. Thank you.
So anyway, thank you, the three of you. My intent was to bring Mike up to speed with what was in the public comments. And so I did not want to be out of line with what was acceptable to the agenda and what was not. So we'll just move on and go from there. So thank you. Okay, let's move on to consideration and approval of the minutes.
Make a motion to dispense with the reading of minutes.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
That passes.
Do we have any minutes from our second board meeting for December? The budget hearing?
I'll have to look for that for the next one.
So these are just the minutes from December 1st.
Was the second meeting on December 5th?
Yep, 7.
7th, okay. So there's a date change in here. It's under new business, Part D Delta. It says that when I move to table the approval to 12/5 meeting, it's 12/7. There's also one under A for the same thing, under new business. It says 12/5, it should be 12/7. And F and G under the same section.
I make a motion to approve the minutes with the revisions that have been requested.
Do a second? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
And so that passes. Okay, we'll move on to the payment of bills, the approval of bills. The bills that are handed up to you come to the amount of $271,946.03. $84 of that is celebrations, and the, yeah.
Back to the original note. The 272, because you approved that 665.
Oh, that's just not gonna go right back to his.
Yeah, but that, you
Yes,
gotta include
okay.
that in the total. It's 272.
665, something. That is just gonna be charged right to the
61136.
No, it's got to be 272, 611, yeah. Right.
So I'll amend that, $272,611.36. Do a second on that?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, old business, and this has been bounced around for quite some time now. Discussion, consideration, approval of changes to Chapter 9, Village Ordinance, final approval. Eric, would you like to kind of give a brief talk about what was done here?
We upgraded the road standards. That was the big issue on there. So then it was sent up to the attorney sent it back, got approved at Public Works on Tuesday, I believe, and it was brought back up.
And I think we tabled this, last month or prior month. I know we tabled it last month because the attorney needed to take a look at it. It may have been the prior month where we tabled it, until everybody had a chance to read it. So, any questions about it?
We'll say from DPW on Tuesday's meeting, we did approve to bring this to the board for final approval.
Okay. Anyone want to make a motion?
Make a motion that we adopt the upgraded version of the Chapter 19 Streets and Sidewalks to our code.
Chapter 9.
Chapter 9.
Oh, Chapter 9, what did I say?
19.
I am so sorry, I apologize. Chapter 9, Streets and Sidewalks.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
Okay, we'll move on to new business, and of course, Mike in professional services talked about occasion. And I'm gonna lump both of these together, occasion and the next one, Harvest View. And I believe it's recommended to table this until you finalize it.
Motion to table.
Okay, I'll motion to table. Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and then discussion, consideration of approval of signing of the intergovernmental agreement between the village of Big Bend and Waukesha County. I believe it's in your packet here, isn't it? And this is a yearly thing that we agreed to with Waukesha County.
Do we know, has there been any significant changes to this agreement, or is this just the boilerplate year to year?
I think it's just the boilerplate.
And this is what we received presentation of recently, the recycling program, correct?
Pardon me?
We received a presentation on the recycling program
municipal recycling program a couple months ago.
I believe we had somebody come in and talk to us.
Okay.
Do we have a motion?
Unless there's further discussion, I'll make a motion to accept the intergovernmental agreement between Big Bend and Waukesha County.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Yeah.
Hello?
You meant to go right out the door.
His phone's right there. And you just, it's right underneath.
Right. Okay. All right, we will move on to discussion, consideration, approval of signing the economic development contract between Waukesha County Center for Growth Incorporated and the Village of Big Bend. I believe that's in the packet. Any questions on that? And I believe this is just another yearly renew, correct?
Make a motion for the approval of signing of the economic development contract between Waukesha County Center for Growth and the Village of Big Bend.
Okay, do a second.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we will move on to the discussion, consideration, and approval of Chapter 5 open burning. I believe this came up from public safety.
Came up from public safety. If we can, we're gonna display some slides up on the wall behind the front table there. Take us just a second to rearrange and get ready for that, please. So this came up after consideration for the past 6 to 7 months in public safety, where many tweaks were made to the open burning to update us to bring us a little more in line with what the DNR burning is statewide. So again, different things have gone through, different considerations have been made, changes have been made. It has been looked at and approved by the village attorney as far as the legality and the way it's been written, so that the attorney feels that it is an enforceable ordinance going forward in the future. So if we have a couple minutes just to get set up, I would appreciate your patience.
Can I just ask you a question?
Sure, absolutely.
What is different from ours from what the DNR has put together?
Ours is a little more lenient in what we're going to allow to burn. We did not get the 429 state code in our packets, or am I just missing it?
That, I have it. Yeah, that.
Yeah, that.
It's upside down.
Oh.
On the back side.
Oh. Of that. Got it. We are being a little more lenient. The state is much more stringent in what they will allow for burning, and 429 is their state DNR code for burning. I have a lot right now, so I can't pull it up there in front of me.
But take your time, that's
I'm in there. Too many papers tonight. So we go on, the current burning has always referenced back to chapter NR 429.04. Like I said, if you go through there, the state of Wisconsin and the presentation that I'm prepared to give tonight from the DNR website, they're much more stringent in what they're burning. Ultimately, they would like to see small campfires and clean wood burn. DNR does not want, it states in their website and the code of this that they don't want commercial entities burning. We also have to look at the fact that we are in the southeastern Wisconsin interstate designated area for particulate matter, and that brings another set of standards that kind of have been not enforced and not looked at very closely for wood burning of trees, limbs, stumps, brush, or weeds for clearing. That is something that we also, with this, will bring back in line. We are still allowing residents, based on discussions and back and forth in the Public Safety Committee, to have the ability to burn small piles. Again, we'll go into a little more detail when we get into the presentation of some of the things, but basically we are asking that we follow much closer to what the DNR is recommending statewide for burning. And the surrounding communities also reference back to NR 42904. And we are very close to now coming in line with other communities in our surrounding area as to what they want and allow for burning, especially in regards to commercial burning.
So just to be clear, we definitely are allowing the small backyard campfires?
Absolutely, small backyard campfires. There's a request to consider and continue allowing residential to use burn barrels. That was questioned by the attorney, whether we wanted to go there or not. Ultimately, it was decided to allow that to continue at the residential site. We was asked by Trustee Lewandowski during one of our committee meetings to make exception for the 3 bars in town so that they can continue with their campfires, and that's been written in also. To address one of the comments I heard during open comment, the Assistant Chief Sonberg brought it up to our for information that there's a couple of residences that are in non-complying zoned commercial. I brought that to Attorney Schober's attention, and he rewrote the opening statement about burning in commercial areas to accommodate those residences so that as residential entities, they can still have their campfires.
So are you saying that I know the bars burn their cardboard and things like that, correct?
They have burn crate for that.
Yeah. So can we talk to those people about using our recycled cardboard? Because we do get paid for that, to recycle.
And I brought this question up to Eric today. The recycled dumpster that we have is free for use for anyone in the village, businesses and residents alike. He has an agreement worked out with John's, our disposal service, where they provide a dumpster for us, and they then recoup the cost of the dumpster fee by recycling that material and keeping the tipping fees for that. So that dumpster that sits out there is free to the village. We are not charged for it.
Right.
At this point in time.
Is it inside the gated area or
No,
outside?
outside. It's, you know, where they have that leak bin and that down there.
Mhm.
Well, actually, right up. If you went right, you drive into the DPW building. If you look left, the dumpster's right there.
And it's not only for cardboard, it is for any recyclable material that you can put into your recycling bin as residents, and that anything that is acceptable for the recycling bins is accepted in that dumpster.
Eric said that, I thought it was just
Yes.
cardboard.
It used to be cardboard when Waukesha County ran the program, but they stopped that program 2 years ago, I'm not sure of the date. 2 years. According to Eric today, any recyclable materials that is listed on John's website that is allowable to go into the residential recycling containers can go into that container also.
And I know that it does get full.
Yep, and I think that's just,
I think that was brought up, and he does take and crush it down, and put in the outside stuff in there. Now, let's make sure we re-verify there. I guess you did talk about that?
I talked to Eric this morning about that.
Other things other than cardboard, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And I'm more than happy to revisit that and recheck with Eric.
And if, you know, we start to get this, we may need to have him look at getting a bigger dumpster.
Bigger dumpster, more often collection, and I'm sure John's would more than likely accommodate that as long as they're getting their revenue off of the tipping of those recyclable materials.
So, yeah, maybe you could follow up on that.
Absolutely will.
But you said in this that there is an area where the local bars or businesses like that could take and bring the cardboard, is that correct?
That is correct. They can, it's not exclusive to residents, it is open to anybody in the village.
I thought if I could just interrupt, Mr. President, that I thought we just wrote in there that they can have campfires, it has nothing to do with burning cardboard.
Correct.
So, just to correct that it's just for campfires, not burning cardboard.
I'm sorry, I'm confused.
For the 3 bars that you're talking about?
Correct. They can have campfires as defined in.
Right, and he says they can still burn cardboard, I'm talking about campfires, not
No,
burning.
they can bring the cardboard. They can bring the cardboard to the dumpster.
Yeah.
Okay, as long as we get clear on that. So, maybe if you know some of these people, you could encourage them to use that.
Mhm.
Or maybe you've already talked to them.
It's been discussed.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So,
Yeah, I don't know how we can come to a conclusion on this tonight. We were just handed this tonight. We had no time to really review it or look at it in depth.
This is actually
I
mailed out.
suggest we postpone this until the next meeting. We used to, in this board meeting, get our information 5 to 10 days ahead of time to make this type of decision at the board meeting. Means we didn't have it early enough, and we're just looking at it tonight. I'd like to be able to look into this in depth and see what it's all pertains to. It's gonna affect a lot of people in this town, and a lot of businesses in this town.
and I understand that, Mike, and, you know, I totally wanna take and be environmental friendly and business friendly. So, if we can reach some kind of good conclusion on this, I would like to have Mike do his presentation, and then, you know, you can discuss amongst the board here if you've had a chance to review it. And if you feel you haven't, it's your option, I guess, to table it.
Not to table.
Okay? Okay, go ahead, Mike.
So, unfortunately, it's gonna take a minute.
Oh, we
And then have you guys
We're
get
gonna
rid
get
of
rid
it.
of face, Mike. Do you need the lights now, Mike?
Probably will.
Probably the other one, Mike. There you go.
I need to see the one.
Just turn this.
Got me a little too soon.
Okay.
All right. Second time, hopefully we don't lock it up.
And this was approved in public safety?
It was approved unanimously in public safety. There was no dissension.
And recommended up to the board?
Correct.
Thank you.
All right, we start out with what is the current open burning ordinance. You should all have that in your packet. It is a little bit difficult still to see on here. Some of the slides further on will become much clearer. Again, it's just placed there for demonstration of what we have right now. And this does ultimately reference chapter 429 within the body of it. Ultimately, the new revised burning ordinance is very similar, is about 80% of what the old language was, with about 20% being new language or up-to-date language directly from the DNR website and from chapter 429. This is a reference back to chapter 429, which you all have copies of. So in the last 3 years, 2021 and 22, these are the burn permits that have been issued to various businesses and in some cases actual homeowners of the village. As you can see, each and every example of the burn permit that has been issued by the fire inspector has chosen to exempt the size of the burn from the village ordinance, which follows chapter 429. Village ordinance states 4 by 4 by 3 foot piles can be burned. With that exemption, much larger piles can be and have been burned by these businesses.
Do you have any idea why they would be exempt?
It's a question for Mr. Bronk. And I did ask him that, and he told me in a public safety meeting, when I asked the same question, I was told that that's because that's what the business owners want.
Any thoughts on that? I mean, he does work for you, correct?
Yeah. He's up on all the codes and everything, so I leave that up to him as far as how he enforces and hands his permits out.
I guess my problem is, and Mike, we can openly discuss, correct? Mike?
I'm sorry?
We can openly discuss.
Well, it directly relates to the ordinance and the contents of the ordinance, so I'd say at this point, yes.
Okay. I have a problem with exemption from size. I mean, that could be whatever size.
Bill goes out and looks at them and sees what kind of equipment. Some people have dozers, they have dirt covered up, they have proper firefighting equipment there when they're gonna do it, and checks the wind conditions and everything else, so that's what he bases it off of.
Do you have record of these inspections by Mr. Brock? And can they be provided to the board?
Probably not, he was out and just visual inspects them.
Well, then presumably it may not have happened also, that he's gone out and inspected every place before or after or during burning.
Not during probably, but before he does.
I got a question with that. There's been, at the planning meeting and then also tonight too, there's been businesses, and I'm not trying to pick on businesses by any means, but they've stated that they burn, but they don't have any permits. So I guess my question is, how does the fire department do inspections on properties, see that they have a burn pit, they have a burn area, but yet they're not addressed, you guys aren't addressing that to have them pull a permit?
Technically, everyone basically in the village has to contact, prior to burn, is supposed to be contacting the village hall and letting them know that they're doing burn.
We usually get a call, Kelly will
But wouldn't that be part of your fire inspection?
No,
The
we're
property?
we're talking not just businesses, we're talking residents. Basically everyone.
That would be fine. I'm focusing on the fact that at planning, there was a business that was here stating their case during public comment, and he stated that he did openly burn, but there's no permit for his property. And he says he's done it for years. There was a gentleman here tonight as well that said that he burned occasionally on his
Right.
commercial property. but there's no permit.
If their pile is 4x4x3, or they're burning in a burn barrel, there's no reason for us to be doing an inspection as long as it follows within the guidelines of what the village has laid out in the previous ordinance, prior to this new ordinance. So if they're burning in a burn barrel, we don't go to every resident or every business and inspect before these people, before.
So the one at the planning commission was an individual that has a landscaping company that burns root balls, burns large amounts of wood.
Okay, so
brush, things of that nature.
I'm not gonna dance around in regards if we're talking about extreme exteriors.
We're not.
No, we're
You're
not.
absolutely not.
No, I was, it wasn't definitely, it's not.
Okay, so
It had nothing to do with them.
okay, and if they're not pulling a permit, then yes, they're in violation.
So I guess my question again is, whenever there's inspections that are done on the properties, and it's noticeable that they have a burn area, but they have no burn permit, why are we not seeing that there's any write-ups, or if there's any type of address to that, to get them to at least pull a burn permit?
If we don't get complaints on it, we don't know.
So in other words, your inspectors go out, see that, and just turn the other way and not pay any attention to it?
See what? He goes out before they burn the pile
This
if
is
they
doing,
call
this
us.
is doing the general inspection for the site, for all fire inspection related items. I'm,
So if, you're saying if they've been burning and they haven't pulled a permit?
Yes.
Okay, and so if we don't know what, if they're following within the rules of 4x4x3.
I can guarantee you that this particular business would not, given the amount of root balls and tree trunks and other things that he's bringing in, would not be a 4x4x3.
Okay.
We're in the country, everybody burns.
I understand that. Jim, we're looking at the possibility of putting this into place. I'm asking how we go about enforcing it whenever they're doing inspections.
My question is, how many complaints has there been to do this to all the businesses in this village? How many actual
We actually have
complaints
a
has there
record of
been?
that, 10 or 12, what was it?
In 2020, when I went down to get that burn permit, they were like, this is one of the first burn permits that's been issued and we don't even know how long. Nobody gets permits to burn. They light the stuff on fire. And they have a bonfire and they roast marshmallows over it. Same thing as what you guys are doing in your backyard in your fire pit.
Didn't we check on how many there were?
There was at least 2 complaints in the Opens record request that
That
was
was-
made by another
And that
business.
Opens record request was to one particular property and was honed in to basically just look at that one property. I can say that myself, I went to Inspector Bronk and I've also went to Jason Cromie to ask about the burning that happened behind Kroll Recycling. And this was back 2018, 2019, because they were openly burning waste off of their metals, insulation, plastics, rubber, other stuff like that, and I had received numerous different complaints from different residents on the cloud that would come up occasionally as they did these burns. Now that should be on record. I don't know if it is or not, but it wasn't recorded into that. I know that I called 911 on Jamin's property at one point because there was a large fire that had no attendance to it. Jamie, you responded out on behalf of the fire department. You called Greg Peterson, told him to come out and deal with it, and left site. So there was nothing else done about it. There's a 30-yard dumpster that was on fire, again, at Extreme Exterior site, that I can't find any record on that either, that lit on fire and had to be extinguished by the fire department. Do you guys recall that? Do you
Yes.
recall the fire at the northeast far corner of Industrial Drive, where there was a large amount of pallets and stuff that was burned about 3 years ago during the summertime? It was enough that there were several complaints of people saying they thought a house or a building was on fire and the fire department had to come out. And it was because they were burning all their pallets and stuff in between 2 trailers that were back there. They called me, said that the fire department had been called for 911, but wanted, knowing that I was a firefighter, if there's anything that I should do. So I ran over there to take a look at it, and it was a large 30-foot high flame that was coming off that property. You guys responded out to it at that point. I can't find any record on that either. I don't think any fines were issued for any of these. But there's been other complaints. It's
Right.
not just one single property, it's not one single time.
We don't issue fines.
We don't.
I know that you don't issue fines, but it would be your recommendation, I would assume, back to the police department if they would need to. I just can't find any traceability to say that these things were assessed, investigated, or otherwise.
And during a public safety meeting this summer, discussion with Sergeant Jamie Aid, there was a reports of large plume of smoke in the Lynn Street area, and he said he investigated and found a large pile of pallets burning, and that the village had received several phone calls. I had nothing to do with that. It just, I had heard about it in passing and asked Sergeant Aid the questions of it during public safety, and again, that didn't come up during the open records request that was recently made. So I do not know what the history of overall complaints about burning are in the village. I cannot answer that question because I do not have that information.
So it goes back to my question, and I understand and appreciate, Jim, what you say. Everybody burns, but how do we regulate that? How do we make sure that people don't get it out of control? It seems like we're not issuing a lot of permits for everybody burns.
I don't think we're issuing, I don't think everyone's coming to get a permit. I don't think every resident is calling down at the village hall.
Well, I'm looking for stopgaps. I'm looking for ways to make assessments and make sure that people are following at least to some semblance of the standard. The only way that I could really foresee doing that is by, whenever the fire inspection is being done, to look for that stuff and then talk to them and say, you really need to get a permit. You really need to make sure that you're following this code so that we have some control over what's going on.
But the new ordinance is gonna eliminate that.
Well, I know,
And-
but I'm
and
saying
so
if we
that's
don't
something-
take,
That's something that from there we gotta look at, then we add that to our list.
yeah, if we don't take on the new code, I'm just trying to figure out where we're at right now and where it still could be of how we regulate this, how we make sure that we have control over the process.
And I think what's being talked about here is, how can we possibly do this to maybe meet a happy medium here on this? You know, get the documentation done, continue to be friendly to the people who need to take and burn different things. I really have a huge problem with exemption on size. You could burn something as big as this building. And it has been done. And that, I don't think you guys would want that, I sure wouldn't, because that would be something that'd be a huge public safety issue. I think if nothing else, get something in there that says it can be whatever size. It can be 12 by 12, or can't be any higher than whatever it might need to be.
And you gotta have the proper fighting equipment for it,
Yeah.
maybe, you know?
Make sure these guys are notified so that, they're on standby, or even say, hey, so you have to have them there. Because do you really want somebody burning? I don't want anybody in my backyard, and I've brought up to burn, and I don't know what their regulation is, but I know that they're in the country too, and there is some burning back there that's pretty good size. I don't want my house burned up. So.
My question, Kelly, is when you receive phone calls for people that are burning, they come into the village hall, correct?
Come to the village hall, there's only one that calls.
And
then
do you,
emails go to chief.
and is Mr. Cronk notified by phone that people are out there so that he can go out
Laura
and check them?
normally takes those, so I'm sure she does what she needs to do. I don't know if she calls Phil or not.
All right.
So again, here we have, these are the burn permits that have been issued over the last 3 years. Not only do we have exemption from size, but we have varying degree, or varying times of the day that usually contradict what the current village ordinance says. We're gonna move on. So here we are into Wisconsin DNR, which has a very user-friendly website. When you type in "what can I burn," summary of regulations for open burning. DNR is very concerned about, obviously, air quality management. So they are very strict about what and where and when they allow burning to take place, and most importantly, what type of materials. So right away, they state commercial, industrial, and municipal facilities are prohibited by the 1990s Recycling Act from landfilling or burning yard waste without energy recovery, or burning any recyclable materials such as paper, cardboard. However, solid waste management rules allow the burning of certain woody material or specifically licensed wood burning facilities, which we don't have any of in the village. So right there, any burning by a commercial entity of any recyclable material is not allowed by the DNR. Talks about the types of burning, the types of DNR approval or licenses that may be required for specific information and the types of burns. Burning of trash and yard waste. State regulations allow individual households to burn small amounts of dry household rubbish, which includes only unrecyclable paper and cardboard, natural fibers, clean, untreated wood, and similar materials, and small quantities leaves, plant clippings, unless prohibited by local ordinance. This allowance does not apply to commercial and environmental entities. So right there, the DNR is stating very clearly that commercial entities are not allowed to burn. Burning household rubbish and yard waste is allowed when both of the following are met. The rubbish and yard waste was created by normal household activities, and the rubbish and yard waste are burned on the individual household's property, not transported to another property and burned. Many examples of the burning that is done on commercial properties in the village right now are stuff that is brought in and transported from other properties, such as brush clearing, tree removal, landscaping, removal of decking. That type of stuff is brought back into the village and burned. Doors, large garage doors, that type of thing.
You know, that, can I comment, Mike?
Of course.
Yeah, that's where I look at some of the things, some of the burning items that have been done. I don't want people to bring in trees and brush and stuff from other communities and burn them here. Take care of it in that community. We don't want to drag it in here. We do it. You know, take care of what we have in our community.
We're going to get into it a little bit more, but keep in mind that breathing the smoke from debris burning is not healthy for you or your neighbors. Burning of rubbish and yard waste is discouraged because of the air pollution and because of the many carcinogens that not only the smoke, but the resulting ash that is distributed throughout the neighborhoods. As was stated during the open comments, we have a lot of residential and industrial areas that are very intertwined, so burning in one area does affect the other areas that are very close by, including the grade school of Big Bend Elementary School. Very quickly, prohibited materials according to the DNR for any type of burning include the garbage, carpets, electronics, foams, furniture, mattress, asphalt, rubber, metals, oily, greasy rags, oil filters, wood that has been painted, treated, or laminated or glued. Even pallets that are treated for longevity would be considered treated wood. They're not clean, clear wood. Plastics of any kind, which
can get into wire insulation, wrappings and coatings that are burned off in one business to be able to recover the scrap metal off of it. Obviously, burning of standard everyday garbage is prohibited. Because of it just comes down to household garbage is almost as bad as a house fire. The chemicals and the mixture of the chemicals that are produced by the combustion are just absolutely terrible for anybody to be breathing or have contact on their skin. Wisconsin recycling laws prohibit business in municipalities from burning yard or landscape waste, rubbish and trash except for waste for energy facilities. Again, we do not have a wood burning facility in the village, so that would not apply to any of the commercial properties that we have. So the first statement about land clearing, that is superseded by the fact that we are in the southeastern Wisconsin interstate air quality monitoring area. If you look up that code with the state of Wisconsin, any land clearing or burning of trees, woods, or wood by commercial properties is forbidden. Clearing of maintenance and maintaining the right-of-ways, that would fall back on either a governmental agency or a business, and again, they would have to get DNR permission to do that. Agricultural activities are regulated by the state, as are other land clearing operations. Disasters and emergencies, as we all know, can bring a different set of rules, and that is what that statement says, that you can apply to the DNR during those times to get permission to burn. So the state regulations allow one-time burning of dry, unpainted, untreated wood, tree, trunks, limbs, and stumps with confirmation from the AIR program. That is the AIR program that I was referencing for the southeastern Wisconsin, which Waukesha County is part of. So that is due to that program, burning of that stuff is banned. Demolition of structures, disposal of demolition waste such as wood waste from down structure is not allowed to the DNR due to health and safety risks associated with the burning of those materials. There are businesses that do demolition and bring their materials back into our village and expect to be able to burn them. Fire department training, they will still continue to be allowed to do their training burns. They, of course, follow all the DNR and other applicable state and federal regulations when it comes to fire burns. Prescribed burns, we don't get into that too much. Again, that is typically DNR that is doing that, and they're very clear and very concise on what the rules on that are, and they deal with that. Campfires, bonfires. State regulations allow fires for cooking, ceremonial, or recreation except when emergency burning restrictions are in effect. And again, it comes down to the local official and what we allow. Environmental impacts of smoke. This is something that is very driving behind everything that the DNR does. Burning is prohibited. Burning of prohibited materials such as garbage, plastic, painted, or treated wood is harmful to the environment. These materials release toxic chemicals that pollute the air. That pollution that is in the air then can be breathed in or absorbed through the skin based on the smoke plume and where it goes and how it dissipates. It affects
everybody in the village. It affects residential, it affects bordering commercial properties, because you have people working in those properties next to where burning is currently taking place. We also have 3 grade schools within the village that can be impacted by the smoke of any burning of prohibited materials. That is why fire departments have a very clear and organized structure to maintain and keep their gear clean. They have recently, fire departments across the country have adopted policies of cleaning themselves and ridding themselves of these contaminants once they get back to quarters after house fires, because all the things, all the chemicals that are burned are sitting on our skin, are absorbable, and the same can be said for burning that is burned in large, uncontrolled, or unregulated size of material, and that is disseminated into the nearby neighborhoods. Again, even the burning of clean wood produces chemicals that, air pollutants that can affect anybody and everybody. Impacts of burning trash and plastic, you just get into all kinds of crazy mixtures of volatile organic compounds and other types of materials, the POMs, that people then either breathe in, or because of ash that is spread throughout the burn plume, lands on their cars, on their chairs, on their bodies as they're outside in their yards. As I said about the ash contains phosphorus, potassium, trace amounts of micronutrients, and iron, magnesium, boron, copper, zinc, any of these and many more once you start getting into the chemical mixing of untreated or treated woods and other different materials that routinely get burned. Again, from the DNR website, Can I Burn tool. Just to go backwards for a moment, the reason I'm focusing on the commercial burning is because the commercial burning is bringing materials from and products of their business back into the village. Those products are unregulated. The burning on commercial properties are unregulated. They are not overseen by anyone or any entity in this village, so that there is no guarantee that they're not burning prohibited materials. Whereas your regular homeowner is more typical to not have those types of materials that they're bringing back into their backyard, and they are being regulated by only allowing smaller piles of waste to be burned at any one time. It is not these large unregulated piles of waste. So the Can I Burn tool is a interactive click and point and play. What kind of burning do you have questions about? Outdoor burning to dispose of waste, reduce waste, including yard waste or clear land, which would include cardboards and other recyclable materials, or materials being brought back from the job site. Click on that. What would you be burning? Burn would or could include any of the following materials: plastics, carpets, vinyl siding, furniture, mattress, asphalt, rubbers, oily substances, wet garbage, rubbish not generated from normal household activities, and rubbish from construction and demolition activities that does meet the clean wood category. Again, according to the DNR and this interactive tool, once you put those 3 things together, DNR recommends that those types of items cannot be burned. Even if you do dry combustible household rubbish composed only of unrecyclable paper and cardboards, natural fibers, and clean untreated wood and similar materials, and you say that this waste is coming from a business, multifamily housing, or government, or not from normal household activities, the recommendation from this tool and the DNR is still the burning is not an option. They prefer you to recycle and appropriately landfill the materials or that you're bringing back. Couple of burn permits and burning ordinances from surrounding communities. This is Vernon. Takeaway from here is burning of stumps in place, and all the other things is they're still relying back onto the DNR code 429 as to what you can and cannot do. This will be New Berlin. They specifically say within their code, if I find it, that and no burning allowed in their industrial areas. And this is Waterford, Village of Waterford. And as we go through, there will be a portion where, like we do, they define things out as far as campfires and what is acceptable for campfires. Again, they also, just like we would, ban of treated or painted woods, that type of thing. And under letter D, unless specifically allowed elsewhere in the chapter, commercial enterprises other than agriculture or silviculture operations may not burn. They refer that type of burning to the burning facility or the DNR wood burning facility where the burning is recovered for reusable resources. So this is the copy of the open burning ordinance as proposed that you have in front of you. Again, 80% of it is still the old burning ordinance. The major change is the burning on commercial and industrial zone properties and properties used as such in the village. Everything else is just clarifying the definitions of what can and cannot be burned throughout the rest of the open burning. There are no provisions for burning permits anymore. And again, like I said, there is an exception that is in place for Class B fermented malt beverage license and Class B intoxicating liquor license. That's for the 3 bars. That was requested by a committee member, and we incorporated that in there so that they can still have what is defined as campfires. Could we put an exception in there at all? This would be something to talk about. It's for each one of you as board members. Any kind of exception in there, like what we've done for the bars, for some of our businesses, so they can burn in small amounts.
I think it comes back down to the enforceability and the oversight.
Well, that's where we're gonna have to ask our police department, our fire department to step up and oversee it.
Unfortunately, they only respond to complaints, and if nobody calls a complaint about it, then we have the same situations we have right now, where there are many items that are being burned on commercial properties that do not meet the definition of the state DNR codes and our own village current ordinance or the new proposed ordinance.
You know, I think, fire creates smoke. When you're driving around patrolling or whatever, you should be able to see smoke, investigate, and if they're within the acceptable range. I mean, I am totally against having a open pile, you can burn whatever amount of stuff you want to burn. That exemption is just not right.
What's the difference between driving down Edgewood Avenue and 5 houses having their whole ditch line on fire, burning leaves in the fall, and nobody saying anything?
Well, are they burning?
Huh?
Are they burning?
No. Big Ben, everywhere. Edgewood Avenue, Janesville Avenue. I mean, 3 dozen houses in 5 minutes that do it on a yearly basis.
That's something that would be an enforcement issue.
If this was such an issue, and 90% of his presentation was about harmful effects of burning and smoke, why don't you just ban all burning in the village altogether? If it's that detrimental on people's health and the environment, why don't you just ban all burning?
Because the emphasis on the environmental issues and the harmful health issues are on piles of materials that are being burned that do not meet the requirements of the state DNR.
You said 3 times in your presentation that even natural woods being burned in small amounts cause harmful chemicals. Why would you want to have your kids and grandkids sit around a fire pit then roasting marshmallows when you got hazardous material blowing up in your face?
Because it is an acceptable risk to me to do that.
It's an acceptable risk for us.
No, it's not.
To
When
burn
we're
also.
burning materials that have treated wood in them, that have hydrocarbons in them, all the different things.
Interesting.
Well, now, instead of screwing all the businesses in the village, can't we, I'm just saying, spitballing here, get rid of the exempted size, regulate a certain size, a certain height, certain provisions during a burn, certain hours, and actually enforce the burn permits, go and enforce it, actually have some communication and dialogue with the people that are supposed to be enforcing it, instead of just right away, you can't do it. Why don't you try to actually enforce it first?
That's an option, and that's why we want to have, we are having an open discussion regarding this. And when I brought up the fact that please come up with some solutions, so that's what we want.
What about granting a specialty permit to businesses to burn, again, say they clear a lot, and they have a 5-acre lot, and they clear brush and cut it up into piles, and get an exemption for that specific permit?
I'll go back.
That's monitored.
I'll go back one step, Jim, and then one of the things you asked about with leaf burning. So, under the new statute that we're looking at here, I had to search and I found it here, under general provisions, all open burning shall comply with the following, and this is specifically after it says no commercial burning. So this would be on residential. It does say here that materials for burning shall consist only of dry, unrecyclable paper, natural fibers, clean, untreated wood, and similar materials, and grass, fallen leaves, branches, brush, and similar materials. Materials for burning shall not include wet rubbish, garbage, trash, any material may have coated, all the bad stuff that you don't want to burn. It must be managed on the originating property. No materials for burning can be transported to or from another property and burned. Burn piles shall not be ignited with flammable or combustible liquid. And then it has about the size on here too. Size of the pile cannot exceed 4 foot by 4 foot by 3 foot high. Must be, it goes through the specifications from there on it. So it does talk about leaves on, where people have to burn in the fall, because there's no pickup. We don't have DPW pickup like some communities do.
But this is what I'm getting at. This isn't about our site specific. I could care less. Like I said, don't penalize everybody because of things that we've done. But there's certain commercial properties here that have agricultural land, that have tons of leaves, that have to do the same thing as a residential.
So agricultural is exempt.
I'm not saying agricultural, I'm saying near agricultural, near wooded lots, but they're still commercial lots. You're penalizing everybody, you're allowing the residential to do that same thing, but you're penalizing commercial just because it's named commercial. Even though they may have this exact same thing. Like I said, the property that we own up front, the house, it's the same thing, it's zoned commercial. I understand you said you create exemptions, but that was for, campfires. So
Well,
where's the,
I think that's what we're trying to get to, Jamie, in this discussion. So we can possibly reach a happy medium here. And yeah, we may have to come down on this a little bit tougher on our enforcement. And maybe we'll have to have a recommendation that if you wanna burn this stuff, as a commercial business or whatever, just for the protection of the community, yeah, they have to pay to have the fire department there. Or, you know, and when you say, you know, we're out in the country, we used to be out in the country. Vernon's kinda in the country. There's not a whole lot of Big Bends left in the country anymore. Most of it is right down here in this area here. Yeah, we've got some country up on the north side of town, which at some point will also hopefully get developed after we get water or sewer or something like that. But most of our community it's right downtown, you know, or you've got subdivisions, you've got stuff right down here. You know, so we are a community now, not just a bunch of country bumpkins out here, you know, that, and we have to have something where we can set some rules and enforce them. Yeah, it's gonna be a little tough on everybody that has to enforce them. Maybe the citizens wanna, if they only wanna take and address it when there's a complaint, the citizens need to complain. But,
And overall, you know, there are different rules in place currently for commercial and residential properties throughout, you know, the village, throughout the city, city, state. There will always be differences in what one can do and the other can't do. So I think if we do have any kind of exemptions, it should come up to the board for the exemption, not leave it in the hand of one person. Let it be decided at this level.
well, this current ordinance that he's proposing doesn't allow for any of that, so if you vote on it tonight.
It's not set in stone yet.
Right, I understand that.
So that's why we're discussing, that's why you're trying to open it up for something else. That's why I'm trying to find a happy medium here. But we need to do it in a good setting where we can all figure out something that's gonna work for everybody. So, are you done there, Mike?
I'm done with my presentation, yes.
We'll take and move forward with this, and I'm not sure where this is gonna go. If you have any recommendations as businesses, and please, businesses up there that's sitting at home looking at this, send some recommendations in here to the clerk so we can consider them. Same with the police department, the fire department, you know, any kind of considerations that you would like to see in here where we can be environmentally friendly and business friendly, along with the residents. I like my backyard campfires. I kind of like my burning barrel, but I don't care about that. I can haul my brush down here and Eric can chip it up. That's not a problem. Any other resident can do that too. Bring it down here, put it in the pile for recycle, turn it into chips. Any other questions, anybody, or any comments, Mike?
Just one. As we draft these things, we constantly think about how others will interpret the words that we use. And there's always a concern that there's a loophole in there somewhere. And during the presentation, it struck me that the provision that deals with the burning barrels, it doesn't describe the size of the barrel. So I don't know that a manure sludge pit is necessarily a burning barrel, but some might interpret it that way. So there should be some size limit on the burning barrel. I suggest whether it's 55 gallons or whether it's a typical burning barrel. And I did have you know what's interesting here as I sit here, and we'll take your time for a minute. There's the old timers in a community, and this happened all the way from West Dallas and New Berlin and Vernon and Laquanico. There's the old timers, they're farmers oftentimes, and they're willing to have new people come to their community. A lot of comes to subdivisions. And there's new people that come, but they're not, their mindset is not the same as the old timers. The old timers were used to doing things with handshakes, and it worked okay for the most part. But as the number of people grew and the density of the people living in the area grew, they had different thoughts. And at times, some of them even didn't want the people to move in behind them. They liked moving out in the country. More people came. But there's this, the old way of doing things, the way the farmers had done it, is influenced now by the new people. And those who sit around this table who are elected to their positions, you're a new person, or you're an old timer, or you're somewhere in between. But that's what influences your thinking. Some people might be used to doing things where the rules didn't matter a whole lot. But as the population grows, the rules do matter more. They have to, because it's important to keep order in the community. And I had a discussion with Trustee Mansell about that burning barrel. And I've known them to be problems in New Berlin when I was city attorney. Something you don't necessarily want, but it just happens based on the use of that. But I think your group yielded to others who wanted to see it to try to strike a balance. And that's what you're trying now, is to strike a balance between the needs of the community, environmental protection. A lot of people would think that what the DNR says is nothing but crap. I'm certain that some of you thought of that as you were listening to it. And I'm not saying I even go along with all of it. You got to have a life, and you've got to be able to do the things that you want to do for yourself and your community. But that's what's happening right now. The philosophy, and Jeff said it actually. He said something about new people to the community, etc. And that's exactly what's happening. It's a friction between the way things have been done in the past, which may not have been completely conformance to the rules, compared to the need to bring people's activities and regulate those activities for the overall benefit of the community. So I'll just tell you, as you look around, you're going to see exactly what's happening. The new folks that came in have different ideas than the old timers. I'm not saying one's better or right or wrong, but that's the friction that's happening. Change, and it's difficult. So that's where you're at.
Thank you, Mike. And, I'll just make one comment to this about, there's comments out there, and people tell me I don't look at them or care about them really, but complaining about the transplants. We're all transplants. The Indians had this place long before we did. Nobody was really here. They moved in. You wanted the subdivisions for the revenue from their taxes and stuff like that. And along with that came some different ideas. Not saying that your old ones are bad or the new ones are good or whatever. It's just, like Mike said, it's growth. But we're all transplants. Nobody singly owned this land for, there might be, I don't think there's anybody around that's been here 100 years now. They're probably all passed away. So think about that. We just got to work together as we move forward. So I know it was brought up that you haven't had a chance to look at it. You may want to have a chance to think about it. We may want to allow some of these different departments and these different businesses to come forward if they want to, and with some different ideas of what maybe we could do. My recommendation would be to table and give this an opportunity to work together.
And I think I would suggest that also from my perspective. The size of that burning barrel, I think, should be regular. Otherwise, I don't know how big it could be, but there's nothing in there. Fault me for not catching that. I didn't catch it until your presentation. So, but it is important. And I think even if you'd like to move forward with it, I think that to allow others who might not be as certain as you would be fair. So that would be my recommendation also.
I just got a text, we lost the live feed. I don't know if it turned off 9 o'clock or something.
I had it till 10:30, but I'll check it.
So, I know there's a communication group out there. Please encourage people to communicate positively with the board. I mean, we know we got problems, believe me. You got a president up here stumbling all over the place, you know, but anybody that wants a job, step up. So, anyway, if you agree, let's have a motion to table it or move forward with it or whatever you want to do. And we'll vote on whichever way you want to go.
I'll make a motion to table.
We have a second from anyone?
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
We need time to take this all in and take a good look at it. And see if there's some other avenues or some other situations we can work out with everybody to keep everybody happy.
Anybody else? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that passes, thank you. Our next thing is regarding going into closed session. And I don't want to get into a lengthy discussion on this too, I just want to bring Mike up to date with what was brought forward regarding the state statute. It was brought by Mr. Peterson. I don't know if you want to take a look at it or give an opinion on it, but it had to do with excluding somebody from an open or closed session. Do you want to speak to that again, or do you want to give your
I
opinion?
don't know, Mr. Pierce, now that you're going to say.
Well, in the state statutes, under 19.89, exclusion of members, it states in here, no duly elected or appointed member of government body may be excluded from any meeting of such body unless the rules of government body provide to the contrary. No member of the body may be excluded from any member or any meeting of a subunit of that governmental body. So the way I interpreted that was my only avenue that night. Because they weren't going to table it. My only avenue was to not leave the building. That was my only option. Now, if you would come to me and say this is not right, and there's other statutes that say yes, then I'd be happy to leave the room and comply. But when I think that I'm in the right and nobody's given me any proof that I'm not, I had no other option but to do what I did. And I didn't do it out of malice, or I didn't do it out of anything, but I had no other option. It was a last resort, and if I hadn't done it, the meeting would have continued against, and what I think would have been an illegal meeting.
You know, maybe address your comments to these trustees, because, you know, I sit here so like a judge, and they sit here like a jury, and you can tell them what you think the law to read, and you read it, I think, correctly, but there's parts of it that's also relevant that go beyond your presentation. But these are the jurors who decide where to go. I'll tell them what the law is, and you can tell what you think the law is also. But you don't talk to them.
Well, that's what we did. That you just asked me what I said. He asked me to say what I said. I did when you weren't here. I talked to all these people here about exactly the same thing I just told you.
Okay.
So I'm just
Can we make
just telling you again that the way I see it is I had no other option. And if you guys think that by remove me from public office for misconduct over something like that, then I think there's a huge problem.
But talk to them, please, because again, if you've ever been through a trial, that's really sort of where we're at. The judge tells the jury, and they're canned instructions as to what the law is, and the judge then gives them the special verdict, and they go in the back room and kick it around and they come back with an answer. That answer binds the judge. Now, I will concede that likely any citizen could make the complaint. Any citizen, taxpayer in the village could make a complaint about any official's conduct. I don't know that that's happened. But the question is, what does this board want to do? And I am not telling them what to do. I'm just telling them, here's the law, as I see it. You guys decide how the facts fit.
Fair enough.
The answer is like a simple arithmetic or engineering formula. The law, one symbol looks like that one, one's a little flat line, one's got a dot above them below, and one looks like an X. That's the law. That's the engineering formula. That's the rule. The facts are like numbers, a 2 and a 2. And if you agree to what the law is, and you agree what the facts are, you get a certain predictable conclusion. That's what we're doing here, in a very simplistic fashion. I will tell them what the law is, they, like a jury, determine what the facts are, and that gives us the conclusion.
That's all I'm asking.
Okay, thank you. I think hopefully we've covered that. We are going to go into closed session, and this group here is the governing body. So they will be the ones that are able to stay. So, thank you very much. You're welcome to stick around. And
You all have a good night.
all right, thank you for coming.
Jeff, will you need a motion for
Yeah, I'm going to read yeah, I'm going to read this first. Number 8, closed session if needed. Go into closed session as per Wisconsin Stat 19.85. 1B, considering dismissal, demotion, license, or description of any employee or person licensed by the board or commission, or conferring with legal counsel from governing body who has rendered oral or written advice concerning the conduct of a committee member. So now I'll take the motion.
I'll make a motion to move to closed session as read by President.
Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we'll do a roll call. Tony?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Larry? Aye. Myself? Aye.
Aye.
Mike and Tracy.
Aye.
I can do Tracy. Okay, so I think we have, and
Go ahead.
then of course you were the guest here, so.
I think,
Maybe Dan, you can stay for this one.
unless there's something, either both of you, that I just